Hello and welcome back to Unicorn Dust Designs. Today we are doing something we have not done in a long time, and that is create a DIY wood round door hanger. But this time around, we are not going to use any vinyl. So let's get started. I get these glued pine wood rounds. So they're like panels glued together. And I get these at Home Depot. They're around $12 nowadays. They used to be way cheaper, but you could also get them at Menards, Lowe's, and you could even get the thin ones off of various sites like Etsy, even maybe even your local Facebook. So I am using my orbital sander. I am going to start off with 80 grit sandpaper, and I do this on the front, the back, and the sides. Make sure you get those sides really good because they are so gritty, and if you try to stain them, it's just makes for a difficult stain job. So make sure you are smoothing out the sides of your wood round. After I'm done with 80 grit, I go in with 220 grit, and this is gonna smooth that wood out like butter. It's gonna make it so soft, you guys, and that's what we want. After I am completely done sanding, I'm going to clean off my wood round, and then we're gonna start staining. So I'm gonna go in with Minwax Dark Walnut. I like to apply my stain with a microfiber cloth. You do you. But I have found over time that like those sponge brushes or whatever, the foam ones, they just absorb so much product that I felt like it was a waste. They also make staining sponges. I've never tried it though. But I get my microfiber cloths off of Amazon. Usually anything that I use for my wood rounds are in my Amazon store located in the description box. I just cut them up into small little squares and they last me forever. So we're gonna stain the front, the sides, and the back, and then set that out in the sunshine for a speedy dry time, or leave it overnight and then come back to it in the morning. Now that we're done staining and it is completely dry, we are going to start painting. So I created these stencils using my Cricut Maker 3 7 mil Mylar, and I just got the designs and everything like that from the Cricut design space. I couldn't bring myself to use vinyl, you guys. It's been so long at this point that I was like, I am not weeding out all of this. Ain't happening. And why not do this and make it reusable? Like I could use this on bleaching my shirts. I can use it on other projects. Same thing with, the drips, all of that stuff. If these would be something, you guys, like the set like this, if these would be something you guys would be interested in purchasing, let me know, because I've been considering it, but I'm not sure if I have a wide enough interest in it. So let me know down in comments. Comment stencils. There we go. So we are going to get started on this. I'm going to tape off my middle portion. Now I use Scotch 233 plus automotive tape. So when I first started doing wood rounds, my brother had sent me paint because I kept having bleeds, and he did custom cars for a living. So this is just what I've used and it works, but you can use any painter's tape you have on hand. And I'm trying to find the line. So like I said, these are glued panels of wood. So usually you could find one of the glued panels and get a nice straight line across. However, since I stained this a darker color, it was harder finding those lines. So I had to look on the side of my wood round to find them, and I just tried my best and eyeballed it. So I don't think it came out bad. After that, I'm going to take a little black dress from my DIY paints, my little mini sponge roller, and I am going to do one coat of this. I did not do the sides of this wood round since I was doing multiple colors and because the bottom wasn't going to be a solid color anyways. After that was done drying, the most satisfying part is taking that painter's tape off and look at the crisp lines. Gets me every time. But I'm going to take that same painter's tape and I'm going to put it on top of the black. So you'll see me right here. I'm going to take the take the tape off. See that? And we're going to put it right back on top of the black, right where that line is. This is going to help us for when we place our stencil so we don't get yellow on our black. Now I'm going to take my honeycomb stencil and I'm going to take some of my tape and I'm going to adhere that to my wood round so it does not move around. We're going to use Liquid Sunshine for the honeycomb. This is a brighter yellow in the DIY collection. And again, I am just going to use a sponge and a little plastic plate. So I have not really done a lot of wood rounds with the DIY paints. And DIY paints are clay based. They're a lot thicker than like Waverly or Rust-Oleum, which is what I am accustomed to when doing a wood round. So what I was doing was I was pushing that sponge roller down to try to get more of my paint out of it. But we all know when doing stencils, if you have pushed down on them, that paint goes underneath the stencil. So that's what ended up happening here. As I lifted it up, I was like, oh my gosh, it bled underneath. But like I said, it's all a learning process here. So we learn and, I make the mistakes so you don't have to. So nice, light, even coats, no pressure on the sponge roller. However, I did think it turned out like more organic instead of having like super crisp lines. And then when I did this side, I was like, oh my gosh, it would have looked so cool just kind of in sporadic places with just a very light coat of paint. So it looked more kind of distressed, I guess. So I'm going to have to try that next time. But I did the same thing and I only did one coat. I wish I would have done two now that it's finished. Now I'm going to take my honey drips here. And this is supposed to be a full rectangle stencil, but I was being shysty and was not willing to cut a brand new piece of Mylar, so it wasn't long enough. All right, so now we're going to take Queen Bee. Queen Bee is a darker, I call this like 70s yellow. It's a darker yellow, and I wanted there to be some contrast between the honeycomb and the honey drips. So I decided to take this stencil brush. This is just from Dollar Tree. I cut the ends of these paintbrushes off to create like a blunt paintbrush, like a stencil brush, and they work pretty well. So for this one, I did do two coats because we have that dark stain behind there and that bright yellow, and I did not want you to see those different colors underneath. So I pick it up and like I said, I cut it short. So I just have to layer a little drip right at the end. I'll just layer that on top and then do the same stenciling with my paint. Once I'm done with that, we're going to take that tape off and look at this. Oh yeah, macho man. So now we are going to go in with our stamps. So like I said, no vinyl here. I am working with my stamps. So we have the cursive and then we have the typesetting. And then that bumblebee, he comes from the Queen Bee stamp set. So once I find the placement, I am going to go in with my mixing white ink. You can also use paint on your stamps. However, you need to make sure you are washing them right after you are done, or else that paint is going to not do well with your stamps in the future. So I am going to layer the cursive stamps. Unfortunately, these are retired, y'all, but you might be able to find another stockist that still has stock of them. So I'm going to layer these on top. Then I'm going to take my stamp mount and pick up home all at once because I didn't have to layer them on top of each other. I'm going to dab that up with some mixing white and put that over top. Now, I didn't like how light it was showing up, so I did go in and do a second stamping of all my letters just to get a more vibrant white out of it. Now I'm going to take, you guys, what are these called? Just like honey sticks? Are these the honeycombs? No, the honeycombs are what I painted. I don't know. But this time I took liquid sunshine and I took a very small amount, dabbed off extra on the paper towel, and then stenciled. And this gave me a super, super crisp image. So learning as I go. I don't work with stencils all the time. So definitely a learning process with this wood round, but look at how good that looks. I almost wish I would have done the honey drip in Queen Bee, but it is what it is. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit, right? So I'll do the same thing to the other side. Once it is dried, I am going to take Varathane Spar Urethane in water based. I use satin because I have never been able to find a matte. And I'm going to use this instead of using liquid patina, big top, or polyacrylic because this clear coat is meant for the outdoors. You also want to ensure you're getting water based so it does not stain any of your paint with a yellow. So for me, I have an overhang on my porch, and this is going to be mine to keep. So I do 2 coats of Varathane. If you are in direct elements, I would suggest 3 to 4 coats. I just let them dry in between coats. I don't do any sanding in between either, and I apply the second coat as well. I also use my heat gun on cool setting to speed up that process. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the front, making sure that I give it enough time to dry. All right, so while this is flipped around, we'll go ahead and apply our D hooks. I get these on Amazon. They're in my store link, and they do come with the screws. So I usually position them about 3 inches down, 3 inches in, but you don't have to do that. Put them wherever you want. This is just how I do it. And then I grab my wired jute cord, and I get this from Dollar Tree. It is my go-to. You can totally use ribbon as well. However, I have noticed that the ribbon, especially when hanging on something, it like weathers and it just doesn't look good after a while. So I have stuck with this wired jute cord and I love it and I never have any issues using it. So once we are done with that, we're going to flip this on around, set it to the side. Ooh, isn't that looking beautiful? And we are going to do a bow. You guys, it's been a minute since your girl has done a bow. I almost reverted to my bow video because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't remember how to make a bow. But it came to me. It was like riding a bicycle, you guys. So I'm going to make 3 loops. So 3 circles around each other because I want 3 loops to my bow. I'm going to cut the excess off and then I am going to cut my tail. So I'm just holding that up to my bow, seeing how long I want it. And then I will cut that excess off. Voila. Now I'm going to take the loops, what I'm going to call the loops. I'm going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to take my scissors and make small cuts on each side of that middle. You do not want them long, just little tiny slits, okay? And then we're going to take the tail, fold that in half, and then I'm going to cut my little dovetails on the end. I'm also going to take another piece of ribbon, and I do have a ribbon video. I will put it in the description box, and I show you a bunch of different ribbons in real time. So now I'm going to create a little cylinder here just by gluing the ends together, and I'm going to layer everything on top. So you can see I have my tails, my ribbon loops, and then I have the middle piece. I take a zip tie and I'm going to push that in, but I'm not going to tighten it all the way. This way I have some leniency if like I need to move anything. For some reason, I didn't like how the middle of this bow was looking. So I cut it off and then I decided to take another piece and wrap it around instead. I don't know why, you guys, it just looked better. And I just glued the two pieces together, cut the excess off, and then we got our 3-loop bow. All right, so now we need to attach that bow. I'm going to do mine at an angle. I did not want to do any greenery because I felt like the wood round was so busy on its own with the honeycomb pattern that I just didn't want more. So this ribbon was in my stash. I am going to staple the ribbon on. And this is going to help, one, keep everything in place. So like where I put that staple, that loop of that ribbon isn't going to move in another direction. Same thing with the tails of the ribbon. And this is going to be great for when you got weather coming at you, your bow, it's not going to move anywhere. I go ahead and I also put some staples on the inside of the top loops to keep them in place. And y'all, we are done with this bee themed wood round. I hope you all enjoyed it. It was a learning process for me using a different paint than I'm used to with the wood rounds, stencils, and all of that stuff. But in the end, I think it came out great. Make sure to comment stencil if you'd be interested in purchasing those, and make sure to subscribe, like, and leave me a comment, please. I'd appreciate it. Thank you all for being here and spending your time with me. I appreciate you so very much.